Anyone who has had any type of relationship with a pet has probably seen an animal showing signs of sadness or despair. However, do animals ever go so far as to intentionally hurt themselves or commit suicide? The history of the world is replete with instances, from beached dolphins and whales to dogs who jumped from cliffs into the ocean. Listed below are the top 10 animals that have taken their own lives in the sake of ending their suffering forever. Alright, let's get this video going. Number 1. A captive bear killed her son and herself. According to reports, a bear murdered her kid by suffocating him and then committed herself on a Chinese farm. Given the circumstances, the bear's suicide is not at all unexpected. The bear and her cub were utilized for their bile, and it is commonly thought that the mother bear committed herself to shield her cub and herself from years of agonizing bile extraction. Traditional Chinese medicine often treats liver and gall bladder issues using bear bile. The bile was taken from a bear that had been slaughtered and hunted before the 1980s. However, bear bile farms were established in the 1980s as a means of having an endless supply of bear bile since the farmers retrieved the bile while the bears were still living. It's as horrible as it sounds. Catheters and permanent holes allow some bears to free drip, while others just use tubes. Deformed by their confinement in very small cages, these animals are a sad testament to the cruel reality of animal exploitation. Even though the great majority of Chinese people oppose bear bile harvesting, it is nonetheless allowed in China at this time. One day, perhaps, this awful habit will be put to rest. It's just one more example of creatures being driven to extremes by their conditions or environments. Number 2. Aphids are suicide bombers. When a ladybug gets close enough to a aphid, the aphid is more likely to commit suicide by blowing itself up. The aphid detonates itself, forcibly removing its friends and relatives from the vicinity of the lady insect, and sometimes resulting in the death of the ladybug itself. It is also possible for the aphid to burst after being consumed by the ladybug. There are other ways that aphids may commit suicide as well. Wasp larvae use the aphid as a food source, ultimately killing it. After eggs have been put inside it and the parasitic cycle is in danger of commencing, the aphid is not interested in continuing that lifestyle, therefore it will throw itself to the ground to be devoured. Number 3. 1,500 sheep jumped from a ledge in Turkey. In 2005, one sheep apparently became tired of being a sheep and leapt over a cliff for no apparent reason. The farmers watched as the remainder of the flock followed suit, and 1,500 sheep in all leapt to their deaths. But just 450 of them really perished. The latter sheep who leapt were spared because the earlier sheep's bodies cushioned the shock of landing on the ground. The community was hit hard since sheep were the main source of income for most residents. Number 4. Male honeybees will rupture their genitalia and die from it. The fact that male honeybees would blow up their own genitalia cannot be expressed in a polite manner. Additionally, it is lethal. Why? Not because they fear death, but rather because they want to inspire future generations of honeybees with their DNA. It's no surprise that male honeybees are prepared to sacrifice their lives for the sole purpose of mating with the queen and producing children. The honeybee's ejaculatory power is so great that his member ruptures, leaving the tip within the queen. He then promptly dies. Exciting, huh? Number 5. A Newfoundland dog drowned itself in 1845. A Newfoundland dog was said to have been being lethargic before jumping into the water in an apparent attempt to die by becoming so calm as to sink in 1845, according to a London newspaper. The dog was retrieved and restrained in order to stop this habit, but after being untied, he returned to the water and performed the act while keeping his head submerged. Number 6. One of SeaWorld's orcas tried to beach itself. Maybe it shouldn't come as a huge shock that an orca committed suicide at SeaWorld after seeing blackfish. In 2016, A video went viral showing an orca beaching herself on purpose, leading many to assume the whale was attempting suicide. Even if we don't understand why whales beach themselves, it happens. According to one marine expert, the whale's fundamentally inappropriate conduct is a direct result of her having been abducted from the wild and placed in a park a little over a year ago. The same whale had previously been seen beating her head against a metal barrier, a clear sign of distress. The whale's actions here may have been suicidal, or at the very least were a reaction to the dire circumstances in which she found herself. Number 7. Cows and bulls threw themselves off a cliff. In 2009, over the course of 3 days, 28 cows and bulls deliberately leapt to their deaths in a Swiss town. In order to prevent further water contamination, the corpses were airlifted out. Officials said the cows' innate knowledge of the cliff's danger was due to their upbringing in the highlands. Some speculate that the cows were scared by the strong storms in the days leading up to the incident and leapt without thinking. Although cows had died from falls in the highlands before, this was the first time that many have died at once. Number 8. Dogs jumping off the Overtoun Bridge were suicidal? Numerous dogs have fallen to their deaths from the Overtoun Bridge during the 1960s, although it wasn't an act of suicide. For a long time, locals blamed a startling increase in canine suicides on the bridge's proximity to Overtoun. However, an expert on animal behavior disproved their claims. Dogs with keen senses of smell were the ones that went plunging from the bridge into a mink colony. So, the canines weren't trying to end their lives. They were only on a mission to catch a mink. Number 9. Lemmings are not suicidal. Disney's White Wilderness, winner of an Oscar, popularized the false belief that lemmings rush blindly from cliffs. True enough, they don't. Again, lemmings are not intentionally committing suicide when they move. Disney was subsequently revealed to have tossed the lemmings from the cliff and into the sea below. But at the time of the documentary's production, it was widely believed that lemmings really jumped off cliffs. Therefore, the lemmings did not commit suicide. Disney eliminated them. Number 10. Kamikaze ants use autothysis to kill themselves and their predators. Kamikaze ants, also known as Malaysian exploding ants, are little suicide bombers that detonate. They are potent because the poison is stored in their sides and head's mandibular glands. The kamikaze ant discharges the poison and blows itself up when it is attacked. When the body ruptures, the poison pours out, halting predators in their tracks. Autothysis is the term for this. The ant's unusual defensive system consists of not waiting for an assault when a predator approaches. A swarm of ants will march up to the predator, then all erupt at once, spraying it with venom. Putting the safety of their colony ahead of their own life is a top concern for them. That's it for today. I hope so you like it. If you enjoy this video and want to hear from me again, make sure to hit that subscribe button before you go.